Hello, everybody. It is day 36 of Award Season Review Season 2, and I am Cinephile Mike here, moving you through the rest of the Globe's mostly week. Now, today's film could have also fit in last week's Based on a True Story theme. There are a few more Based on a True Story films to come, but we know films cross multiple genres. But I'm putting it in here. Today we have A24's Priscilla. Written and directed by Sofia Coppola, adapted from Priscilla Presley's memoir that she wrote with Sandra Harmon, Elvis and Me, we get yet another take on Elvis less than a year after Baz Luhrmann's Oscar nominated flick. Do not get it twisted. That film, the focus was Elvis. Here we focus on his bride, Priscilla. Now, Priscilla, as of this recording, has a domestic box office take of $20,864,910 and an international box office take of $2,063,727, with a grand total of $22,928,637, which could continue to grow as the film is still playing in select theaters. And should Spaney, who was nominated for both the Gotham Award for Outstanding Lead Performance and Best Performance by a Female Actor in a Motion Picture Drama at the Golden Globes. Could she be one of the five? We don't know. Save that, it also has a Critics' Choice nomination for Best Hair and Makeup, but it did not make the Oscar shortlist for that category, so it will not be in the running there. Also, on a side note, yesterday I reviewed Beau is Afraid, and I wrongly said that it had no more Oscar chances. Sorry, I'm going to sidestep. I missed in my post. I put into the video notes. Beau is Afraid is actually on the shortlist for Best Makeup and Hairstyling, so don't count it out of its Oscar potential yet. We will find out next week when the Oscar nominations get announced, or rather in 2 weeks on the 23rd. Okay, but back to Priscilla. Priscilla is a biopic that covers the life of the future Mrs. Presley from when she first meets him to when, okay, this is a spoiler, but I think we all know this one, their marriage ends. Now, what happens in between, many of us saw some of that for those that saw Elvis last year, but here we get more insight from Priscilla's feelings, and there is a little bit more to it. We also get a little bit more of the relationship in the early days, what we could call the pre-Las Vegas years, the pre-Lisa Marie years. And I don't want to say much else on that without spoiling for those that aren't as familiar with the story. So there you have it. Now, Spaney is absolutely stellar as Priscilla Bollier. Her portrait of Priscilla is very sensitive and innocent, so it's very easy for us to see how Priscilla became enraptured with Elvis's world and fell for him. I mean, there are times where with a look she communicates everything going on in her head without having to say a word. The film gives us a look through her eyes, one that we don't always see because always the focus was on Elvis. And it should be said that as Elvis, Jacob Elordi turns in another strong performance this year, the other being Saltburn, which that review is coming soon. A few people have asked me about that one. But he gives his Elvis the right amount of swagger and angst so that when he behaves not like the Elvis we know and love, you are right there with Priscilla in this experience. And it is not always that pleasant. It is not the fairy tale that it was made out to be. Additionally, I don't know if the technical elements of this film will land with Oscar voters, but Stacey Batat's costume design and Tamara Deverell's production design were stellar in this film. From the recreation of Priscilla's wedding dress, for example, to the interiors of Graceland. Now, Batat has a history with Coppola as she designed costumes for every project that Coppola has done post Marie Antoinette. Marie Antoinette won the Oscar for costume design in 2007. Not for Batat, but there's a little history there, so maybe there's some sparks flying. And Deverell was nominated for her production design of Nightmare Alley a few years ago, and last year's Elvis, while it had a different production designer, did enter the production design category. So if there's love for Graceland, maybe we could see that pop up. My biggest problem with this film was the screenplay, though. Not saying that Coppola's writing wasn't strong, it was, but the problem is the film kind of seemed to lack the narrative flow. It kind of went from scene to scene without a link of what was happening and how we would get from place to place. At times it was a little tricky keeping up with the time jumps that were happening in the film. And some scenes were building to these giant climaxes, and we didn't really get to see a lot of the events that were leading up to that. This film at just under 2 hours, I think this one actually would have benefited from a little more content. I know, rare for me to say, but I think, the film lost an opportunity to tell a more cohesive story. It was almost like, let's give you this excerpt, let's give you this excerpt, let's give you this excerpt, and we're going to go chronologically. So for me, Priscilla, while Spaney gets a 5 stars for her performance, it's lovely. The film itself, because of the screenplay, I have to say, it's a 3-star film for me. Well acted and gorgeous looking, but the through line really kind of disappoints it for me. And the ending also is a little bit chopped. I won't say how it ends, but it is a little disconcerting, and how the film ends. Now, Priscilla, as of this recording, if you haven't seen it and want to, is still playing in limited theaters, or it can be rented on most digital platforms in premium video on demand. As of this posting recording, there is no streaming information available. All right. Thank you for joining me today. Please subscribe to the channel if you like what you've heard and haven't already. Please spread the word. I'm trying to hit 100 followers by the end of the season. And if I get there, I will raise the goal. You can follow me, Cinephile Mike, on all social media platforms, and you can also compare movie reviews with me on Letterboxd. See everyone tomorrow as we continue the rest of the Globes, mostly week. And until then, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.